Laughter echoed through the cold, glass-walled conference room as the ink dried on the divorce settlement. They thought they had ruined her. They thought she was leaving with nothing but the clothes on her back. They were dead wrong. What happened next cost a greedy husband his entire empire. For 5 years, Maya Kensington lived a beautifully crafted lie. A stunning black woman with a penchant for thrifted vintage dresses, natural curls, and a quiet, unassuming grace, she appeared to the world as nothing more than a moderately successful freelance illustrator. She drove a dented, 10-year-old Honda Civic, rented a modest apartment in Chicago's Wicker Park, and never wore jewelry that cost more than $50. When she met Liam Montgomery, he was drowning in student debt, a struggling junior architect who could barely afford the cheap takeout they shared on their first date. Maya had loved him for that vulnerability. She had loved him because he saw her, or so she thought, for who she was not, for the billions attached to her family name. Maya was the sole heir to Kensington Global, a sprawling logistics and real estate conglomerate founded by her father, Robert Kensington. Growing up in the suffocating glare of extreme wealth, Maya had watched money destroy her parents' marriage and attract a swarm of sycophants pretending to be her friends. Before she turned 22, she made a vow she would never let anyone know about her billionaire status until she was absolutely certain they loved her soul, not her trust fund. Liam had passed that test. They married in a small, inexpensive ceremony by the lake. Maya's father, respecting her wishes, attended in a plain suit, blending in with the working-class guests Liam had invited. For the first 2 years they were happy. But then Liam's career skyrocketed. What Liam didn't know was that his sudden promotion to senior partner at Oakhaven Designs wasn't entirely due to his raw talent. Maya, working silently in the shadows, had casually mentioned his firm to one of her father's subsidiary directors. A massive multi-million-dollar contract was funneled to Oakhaven, and Liam was credited with the architectural vision. With sudden wealth came a dark, irreversible change. Liam traded his affordable suits for custom-tailored Italian wool. He traded his humble demeanor for a suffocating arrogance. He began rubbing elbows with the city's elite, spending his weekends at exclusive country clubs and staying out late at high-end whiskey bars. And then came Harper Crawford. Harper was the daughter of a prominent banking executive. She was a white woman with sleek blonde extensions, a closet full of Chanel, and a sneer permanently etched onto her face whenever she looked at people she deemed beneath her. She was the vice president of acquisitions for a firm that frequently partnered with Liam's office. The affair wasn't even subtle. Liam began coming home smelling of expensive Tom Ford perfume that didn't belong to Maya. He started hiding his phone. But the final nail in the coffin wasn't just the cheating. It was the profound, humiliating disrespect. Liam began excluding Maya from his corporate dinners, claiming she didn't have the wardrobe for those types of events. He made passive-aggressive comments about her natural hair, suggesting she needed to look more polished if she wanted to stand beside a man of his rising caliber. He began to look at her, not as the woman who had held his hand when he had nothing but as an embarrassing relic of his impoverished past. The breaking point arrived on a rainy Tuesday evening. Maya had decided to surprise Liam at his office with dinner, hoping to bridge the growing chasm between them. When she pushed open the heavy oak door of his private suite, she didn't find him working on blueprints. She found Harper Crawford sitting on the edge of Liam's mahogany desk, her hands tangled in his hair, laughing as he pressed kisses against her neck. Maya froze. The bag of takeout slipped from her fingers, the dull thud echoing in the quiet office. Liam didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. He slowly pulled away from Harper, straightening his expensive tie. Harper looked Maya up and down, a cruel, pitying smirk playing on her lips. "I guess the secret is out," Liam said, his voice completely devoid of the warmth that had once made Maya fall in love with him. We needed to have a talk anyway, Maya. A talk, Maya whispered, her heart shattering against her ribs. Look at us, Liam sighed, gesturing between himself and Maya. I'm moving in a different circle now. I need a wife who understands the corporate world. Someone who commands a room. You're just not built for this life, Maya. You're comfortable with mediocrity. I'm not. Harper let out a soft, mocking chuckle. Don't be too hard on her, Liam. She tries. Maya didn't scream. She didn't cry. The deep ancestral pride running through her veins turned her shock into a terrifying glacial calm. She stared at the man she had secretly made into a king, the man who was now casually discarding her for a cheaper imitation of power. I see, Maya said softly. She turned on her heel and walked out. The next morning, Liam locked her out of their shared bank accounts. 3 days later, a courier handed Maya a manila envelope. It was a petition for divorce, drafted by one of the most notoriously ruthless family law attorneys in Chicago. Maya sat on the worn velvet couch of her small apartment, looking down at the paperwork. Liam was offering her a pitiful lump sum of $50,000 to walk away quietly and relinquish all claims to their shared assets, the house and his future earnings. He was trying to leave her destitute. She picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't called in months. Dad! Maya said, her voice finally cracking. On the other end of the line, Robert Kensington went completely still. Who hurt you, my girl? It's Liam, she breathed out, wiping a single angry tear from her cheek. He filed for divorce. He wants to take everything. There was a heavy, terrifying silence on the line. When Robert finally spoke, the warmth of a father had vanished, replaced by the ruthless precision of a billionaire who had crushed entire monopolies with a single phone call. Put on your best dress, Maya, Robert said quietly. It's time to show this boy who he actually married. The offices of Harrison Miller and Associates were designed to intimidate. Located on the 45th floor of a downtown skyscraper, the law firm boasted imported marble floors, original contemporary art, and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of the Chicago skyline. Maya sat on one side of a sprawling glass conference table, dressed in a simple, elegant black dress. She had come alone. Across from her sat Liam, looking like he had just stepped off the cover of GQ. He wore a sharp custom navy suit and a gold Rolex, a watch Maya secretly knew he had purchased, using the bonus from the contract she had orchestrated. Sitting right beside him, completely inappropriately, was Harper. She wore a glaringly obvious Cartier diamond necklace and a smug expression clearly there to rub salt in the wound and assert her dominance as Liam's new, upgraded partner. At the head of the table stood Gregory Harrison, Liam's attorney. Gregory was a man who reeked of expensive cologne and predatory arrogance. He adjusted his glasses and looked down at Maya with thinly veiled contempt. Ms. Kensington. Gregory began deliberately using her maiden name. I'm glad you decided to be sensible and attend this mediation without drawing things out. Liam has been incredibly generous under the circumstances. Maya didn't blink. Generous? Extremely. Liam chimed in, leaning back in his leather chair, exuding obnoxious confidence. I'm letting you keep the Civic, Maya. And $50,000 is more than enough for you to get a new apartment. Maybe start that little art studio you've been dreaming about. It's a clean break. Be smart and take it. Harper leaned forward, resting her perfectly manicured chin on her hand. You really should listen to him, Maya. Going to trial would bankrupt you. My father's lawyers charge $1,000 an hour. Liam's team is just as elite. You simply don't have the resources to fight this. Take the charity and go back to your simple life. Maya looked at Harper, her dark eyes entirely unreadable. This is a private legal proceeding. Why are you even in this room? Liam placed a protective hand over Harper's. Harper is my future. We have full transparency. She stays. Gregory cleared his throat, tapping a silver pen against the settlement document. Let's get down to business. By signing this document, you waive your right to alimony. You waive any claim to Liam's partnership at Oakhaven Designs, and you surrender your equity in the Lincoln Park townhouse. In exchange, Liam will wire the $50,000 to an account of your choosing within 30 business days. Sign on the dotted line, and you can both move on with your lives. $50,000, Maya repeated slowly. For 5 years of marriage, for supporting him when he couldn't afford to keep his electricity on. Liam rolled his eyes, clearly exasperated. Oh, please, don't play the victim, Maya. We were kids back then. I've outgrown you. I need a woman who can stand in a boardroom without looking out of place. I need a woman who understands wealth. You don't know the first thing about the real world. You're a liability. The blatant racial and class microaggressions hung heavy in the sterile air of the room. They looked at her like she was a peasant who had somehow stumbled into their golden palace, utterly unaware that she owned the ground they were standing on. You think I don't understand wealth, Liam? Maya asked softly. Harper scoffed loudly. Buying organic groceries on a budget isn't exactly high finance, sweetie. Laughter bubbled up from Liam's throat. Gregory chuckled along, sliding the document across the slick glass table until it rested directly in front of Maya. He uncapped a heavy Mont Blanc pen and set it beside the paper. Sign it, Maya, Liam demanded, his tone turning sharp and commanding. Stop wasting our time. I have a flight to Aspen with Harper this afternoon. Maya looked down at the settlement. She read the clauses designed to leave her with nothing. She felt the heavy, suffocating weight of their mockery, their judgment, their absolute certainty that she was powerless. Slowly, deliberately, Maya picked up the pen. Liam smiled, a victorious, ugly grin spreading across his face. He leaned over and kissed Harper's cheek, murmuring something into her ear that made her giggle. Gregory folded his arms, looking terribly pleased with himself. Maya placed the tip of the pen against the thick, cream-colored paper. With smooth, elegant strokes, she signed her name, Maya Kensington. Excellent, Gregory said smoothly, reaching out to pull the document back. Laughter echoed through the conference room. Liam practically slumped with relief. Finally, he muttered. I thought you were going to drag this out with some pathetic plea for more money. I don't need your money, Liam, Maya said, dropping the pen onto the glass with a sharp clack. Harper snickered. Right. Have fun living on instant noodles. Gregory began packing his briefcase, the meeting effectively over in his mind. I will file these with the judge in the morning. Good luck to you, Miss Kensington. Actually, Gregory. A deep, booming voice echoed from the entrance of the conference room. The proceedings haven't even started. Liam, Harper, and Gregory all snapped their heads toward the heavy mahogany double doors. Standing in the doorway was an imposing, impeccably dressed black man in his late 50s. He wore a bespoke charcoal pinstripe suit that radiated absolute authority. Behind him stood 3 men in sharp suits, carrying thick leather briefcases, their expressions forged in stone. It was Robert Kensington. The air in the room instantly plummeted by 10 degrees. Gregory Harrison's smug expression vanished, replaced by a sudden, violent paleness. His hands began to tremble as he recognized the man standing in the doorway. Anyone who practiced law or business in Chicago knew exactly who Robert Kensington was. Mr. Kensington. Gregory stuttered, completely abandoning his professional composure. What? What are you doing here? Liam frowned, clearly confused. Who is this Gregory? Did you double-book the conference room? Harper narrowed her eyes, looking the older man up and down, completely oblivious to the danger entering the room. Excuse me, we have this room reserved. You need to leave. Robert ignored the two of them entirely. He walked with slow, measured steps into the room, his security and legal team fanning out behind him like a phalanx. He stopped right behind Maya's chair, placing his large, warm hands gently on his daughter's shoulders. "Hello, Maya," Robert said, his deep voice vibrating through the silent room. "Hello, Dad," Maya replied, her voice steady and loud enough for everyone to hear. Liam froze, the blood completely drained from his face. His eyes darted frantically from Maya to the towering billionaire standing behind her. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Harper looked bewildered. "Dad, wait, what is going on here?" Robert Kensington finally locked eyes with Liam Montgomery. The billionaire's gaze was cold enough to freeze the sun. "You must be Liam," Robert said softly, though the menace in his tone was unmistakable. "The man who just told my daughter she doesn't understand wealth." Absolute silence descended upon the glass-walled room. Gregory Harrison dropped his briefcase. It hit the marble floor with a deafening thud, spilling confidential files across the polished stone. He didn't even attempt to pick them up. His eyes remained locked on the billionaire titan standing behind the woman he had just spent 20 minutes insulting. "Kensington." Liam whispered the syllables tasting like ash in his dry mouth. He looked at Maya, his brain desperately trying to reconcile the woman who wore thrifted sweaters with the heir to a $90 billion empire. No, that's impossible. You're from a middle-class family in Ohio. Your father sells insurance." Maya finally smiled. It was not a warm smile. "My father owns the insurance company, Liam, along with a few hundred other companies. I wanted a husband who loved me, not a gold digger. It seems I failed to find one." Harper let out a nervous, breathy laugh, clearly out of her depth. "Liam, what is she talking about? Who is this man?" Gregory turned to Harper, his face glistening with a sudden layer of cold sweat. "Shut up, you foolish girl. That is Robert Kensington, chairman of Kensington Global. He owns half the commercial real estate in Chicago." Harper's jaw dropped. The smug arrogance melted from her features, replaced by a sudden, creeping terror. She knew that name. Her father worked in banking. Kensington Global was the white whale every financial institution begged to work with. Robert stepped forward, gesturing to his lead attorney, an imposing man named William. William opened his thick leather briefcase and produced a stack of documents significantly larger than the pathetic settlement Gregory had drafted. "Let us review the reality of your situation, Mr. Montgomery." William said, his voice clipped and professional. "You just coerced my client into signing a settlement where she waives her rights to your assets. A very foolish move on your part, considering my client's net worth exceeds yours by approximately 10,000%. However, there are a few minor details your attorney failed to investigate." Liam swallowed hard, his throat clicking in the quiet room. "What details?" "I earned my partnership. I earned that house." William adjusted his glasses. "Did you let us start with your promotion at Oakhaven Designs? You were elevated to senior partner entirely because you landed the massive waterfront redevelopment contract, a contract awarded by Crestview Holdings. Do you know who owns Crestview Holdings, Mr. Montgomery?" Liam shook his head, a sickening dread pooling in his stomach. "Kensington Global," William stated bluntly. "Ms. Kensington personally asked the board to give your firm a chance. You did not earn that contract. It was a wedding gift from your wife. And unfortunately for you, that contract contained a standard morality and key person clause. We have already contacted the managing partners at Oakhaven." Robert pulled a sleek smartphone from his pocket and placed it on the glass table. He tapped the screen, answering a call that had been holding. "Speak," Robert commanded. The voice of Martin Hayes, the founding partner of Oakhaven Designs, echoed through the speaker. He sounded utterly terrified. "Mr. Kensington, I assure you, we had no idea about Liam's behavior. We value our relationship with Kensington Global above all else." "And the boy?" Robert asked coldly. "Terminated," Martin replied without hesitation. "Effective immediately. We are stripping him of his equity due to a breach of the morality clause. He is officially locked out of the building. Please convey our deepest apologies to your daughter." Robert ended the call. He looked at Liam, whose face was now a mask of pure horror. "You don't have a job, boy. You don't have a partnership. That $50,000 you so graciously offered my daughter, that is more than you currently have in your checking account." Harper jumped up from her chair, pointing a trembling finger at Maya. "You can't do this. This is illegal. My father is Jonathan Crawford. He will ruin you for this." Robert let out a low, terrifying chuckle. It was the sound of a predator cornering its prey. "Jonathan Crawford, Executive Vice President of Midland Bank." "Yes, I know him. In fact, I was speaking with him on my way up in the elevator." Robert gestured to William, who pulled out another document. "Midland Bank currently holds over $2 billion in Kensington Global liquid assets," Robert explained, his voice smooth and deadly. "I simply informed Jonathan that if his daughter didn't immediately cease interfering with my daughter's marriage, I would move every single cent to a rival institution by tomorrow morning." Harper's phone buzzed violently in her designer purse. She scrambled to pull it out. The caller ID flashed her father's name. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the device before answering. "Dad," she whimpered. Even across the room, Maya could hear the screaming on the other end of the line. Jonathan Crawford was roaring, using language that made Harper flinch. "You foolish, arrogant child," Jonathan screamed through the receiver. "Do you have any idea who you are dealing with? Pack your desk. You are fired from the firm. I am cutting off your trust fund, your credit cards, everything. Get away from that Montgomery idiot before you destroy our entire family." The line went dead. Harper stood completely frozen, staring at the blank screen of her phone. She looked at Liam, then at Robert, and finally at Maya. The expensive Cartier necklace around her neck suddenly looked like a heavy, suffocating chain. Without another word, Harper grabbed her purse, turned on her Chanel heels, and sprinted out of the conference room, leaving Liam completely alone. "Harper!" "Wait," Liam yelled, but the heavy mahogany doors had already slammed shut behind her. Gregory Harrison began to pack his bags frantically. He wouldn't even look at his client. "I resign, Liam. You lied to me about your wife's background. This is a severe conflict of interest, and I will not risk my firm's reputation against Kensington Global. You are on your own." Gregory practically ran out of the room, leaving his expensive pen behind. Only Liam, Maya, Robert, and the legal team remained. The once arrogant architect sank slowly back into his leather chair, running his hands through his perfectly styled hair until it was a disheveled mess. The illusion of his power, his wealth, his untouchable status, it had all been dismantled in less than 5 minutes. "The house," Liam mumbled pathetically, grasping at straws. "I still have the townhouse in Lincoln Park. My name is on the deed." William offered a pitying, cruel smile. "Actually, Mr. Montgomery, your name is on the mortgage. The mortgage is held by a private lending group called Apex Financial. Care to guess who owns Apex Financial? Liam squeezed his eyes shut. No. Please. Your wife, William said, twisting the knife. Miss Kensington purchased the debt 3 days ago when you locked her out of your joint accounts. And since you just lost your job and cannot make the exorbitant monthly payments on a house you couldn't actually afford, Apex Financial will be foreclosing. We will be changing the locks at midnight. I suggest you go pack whatever fits into your car. Maya finally stood up. She walked around the large glass table until she was standing directly in front of the man she had loved for 5 years. The man who had mocked her clothes, derided her background, and betrayed her in the most humiliating way possible. Liam looked up at her, tears streaming down his face. The arrogance was completely gone, replaced by the pathetic sniveling desperation of a man who realized he had just thrown away a literal fortune. "Maya, please!" Liam begged, his voice cracking. He reached out to grab her hand, but Robert's security guard stepped forward. Liam yanked his hand back, sobbing. "I'm sorry. I was stupid. The money, the pressure, it changed me. Harper meant nothing. She was a mistake. I love you. I always have." Maya looked down at him, her expression a mask of impenetrable stone. She felt no anger anymore. She felt no sadness. She only felt a profound, overwhelming disgust. "You didn't love me, Liam," Maya said, her voice perfectly even. "You loved how I made you feel when you were a nobody. And the moment you thought you were a somebody, you decided I wasn't good enough for you. You thought I was weak because I chose to be kind. You thought I was poor because I didn't need to flaunt wealth to feel valuable." Liam buried his face in his hands, openly weeping. "I can change. Give me another chance. Please, Maya. I have nothing. I have absolutely nothing." "You have exactly what you came into this marriage with," Maya replied coldly. "Nothing. You wanted a clean break. You got it." She turned to William. "Are we finished here?" "Yes, Miss Kensington," William replied, gathering the documents. "The signed settlement waiving your right to his non-existent assets will be filed tomorrow. He leaves with his clothes, his debt, and zero claim to your empire." Maya nodded. She linked her arm through her father's. Robert looked down at Liam one last time, a sneer of absolute disgust on his seasoned face. "If you ever try to contact my daughter again," Robert warned, his voice a low, gravelly threat that promised utter destruction, "I will make sure you cannot find work cleaning toilets in this city. Do you understand me?" Liam nodded frantically, unable to speak through his hysterical sobbing. Maya and Robert walked out of the conference room, leaving Liam Montgomery drowning in the ruins of his own greed. Stepping into the private elevator, Maya leaned her head against her father's shoulder. The heavy weight of the last 5 years seemed to lift from her chest, replaced by a sudden, brilliant clarity. "Are you okay, my girl?" Robert asked softly. "I will be." Maya smiled, watching the doors slide shut. "I think it's time I finally take that executive vice president role you've been offering me." Robert grinned, wrapping an arm around her. "That's my girl." Over the next 6 months, the high society of Chicago witnessed a spectacular shift in power. Maya Kensington stepped out of the shadows and into the glaring spotlight of the corporate world. She traded her thrifted dresses for bespoke power suits, but she never lost the grounded, compassionate grace that defined her. She took over the philanthropic wing of Kensington Global, funneling millions into community art programs and affordable housing developments. She became a formidable force, commanding boardrooms with a quiet, terrifying intellect that made veteran executives sweat. Liam Montgomery, true to Robert's promise, became a ghost. Blacklisted from every major architectural firm in the Midwest, He was forced to sell his luxury car just to pay off the immediate debts Harper had racked up on his credit cards before she left him. Last anyone heard, he was living in a cramped studio apartment in a decaying suburb, working as a junior draft clerk for a commercial plumbing company. He spent his nights drinking cheap beer, staring at the peeling wallpaper, constantly haunted by the memory of the billionaire wife he threw away for a taste of cheap glamour. Harper Crawford didn't fare much better. Disowned by her father and stripped of her trust fund, she attempted to leverage her social media following to maintain her lavish lifestyle. It failed spectacularly when rumors of her involvement in the Kensington scandal leaked to the press. She was quickly excommunicated from the elite circles she had once ruled. She ended up working as a personal assistant to a demanding real estate agent in Miami, forced to fetch coffee and dry cleaning the very tasks she used to mock others for doing. Maya never looked back. She built an empire not out of greed, but out of resilience. She proved that true power doesn't roar. True power doesn't need to wear designer labels or belittle others to feel important. True power waits patiently in the shadows, knowing exactly when to strike. And when it does, the greedy are left with nothing but the devastating echo of their own mistakes. The streets of Chicago seemed brighter to Maya now. She found joy in the work she did, expanding Kensington Global's reach into sustainable urban development. Every project she touched turned to gold, fueled by her unique vision that Liam had once dismissed as mediocre. She funded independent artists, empowering women who had been financially abused, ensuring no one else would ever have to feel the suffocating helplessness she had briefly experienced in that lawyer's office. Liam's betrayal had been the catalyst she needed to embrace her birthright. She had hidden her light to make a weak man feel tall a mistake she vowed never to repeat. The legacy of Maya Kensington became a legend, whispered in law firms and country clubs across the city, a cautionary tale for the arrogant and a beacon of hope for the underestimated. She remained fiercely independent, surrounding herself with people who valued integrity over net worth and authenticity over status. The girl in the thrifted dress had always been a queen. She just finally decided to put on her crown. Absolutely nothing could stop her now. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you loved this satisfying story of ultimate karma. Hit the notification bell so you never miss another dramatic tale of revenge, betrayal, and redemption. Leave a comment down below, telling us what you would have done if you were in Maya's shoes. Did Liam get exactly what he deserved? We want to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.